Utensils. Utensils are like your Swiss Army knife of a kitchen. There you have all this different stuff to help you do all these different things, and I'm going to go through what you're going to need to do every recipe that I'm going to do on my channel going forward. I keep things incredibly simple, incredibly basic, and it all starts with your utensils and your cooking tools. So this is basically just going to be me running around like a crazy person, going through all my cupboards and just ripping stuff out. There's not going to be much order to this, or much sort of any order or any reasonable amount of sense. It's just going to be me being a crazy person. So yeah, tongs. You don't know what these are. They're tongs. They're to picking things up while you're frying them, or off of a hot tray. Typically anything that's super hot, you don't want to burn your hands. That's not fun either. So this is like the utensils thing. You can put these in a drawer, but for decorative purposes, they've been put in like a jar base. So I'll go through what's in this. And just, oh Jesus. And we're just gonna slowly but surely chip our way around the kitchen until we've covered just about everything. We'll start here. These are measuring spoons. You can get big ones that do cups and stuff. Like I've actually got them, hang on. These are like, they're for mainly for baking and stuff, but you can use them for any other recipe. They want to measure any sort of amount of something, spices, butter, anything that you want. It's all here. They all come in sort of convenient sizes that every recipe, not just mine, will sort of use. That's a tablespoon. Go through in size order. That is a teaspoon. That'd be half a teaspoon, and that's a quarter of a teaspoon. All right, but yeah, the measuring cups, they come into sort of multiple different sizes, and you got quarter of a cup, third of a cup, half a cup, 2/3 of a cup, 3/4 of a cup, and a cup. That's, any sort of recipe will be like, add a tablespoon of this or a cup of this, or, that's what these are helpful for. Otherwise, you're just sort of going to be eyeballing it. And with some things, that's fine. But when it comes to like baking and that, you kind of have to be specific. And that's what these are good for. So we'll get these out of the way and just... And then you've got your sort of spatulas. Good for flipping things over in pans, and that's primarily what they're used for. They're just something to scoop and flip. That's a spatula. Holes for if you want sort of oil and stuff to run out of them, but if it doesn't matter, just use the front ones. They're spatulas. You've got your pasta or your general spoons. This can be used as a serving spoon because it's obviously it's got no holes in it, good for soups and pouring sauces and things like that. You've got your ones with your little holes in it in case you want some stuff to get out but not heaps, like any sort of sauces and that, but you want the solids to stay in there. And this is for I really just use this for spaghetti. That's literally all I use this for. It's good for those long, or for fettuccine, any long style of pasta. That's what these are primarily used for. This is, I don't even know what these are called, but you use them when you've got like bowls and that, and there's a heap of stuff that you want to get off of the bottom. You don't want to waste it, and this just it's sort of very pliable and very and it fits right into them. It tucks all that sort of stuff off of the edges. Yeah, wooden spoons. These are great for stirring sauces and stews and things like that. These are your classic stirring utensils. And this one's got a little love heart in it. How cute. There you go. A whisk. Good for making things like roux and baking. Very good for baking. It's something that just sort of helps things get intermixed, especially dry and soft and wet ingredients. It sort of just helps them come together. And that's what they're really good for. Spider strainer. This is good for getting big pieces like pastas out of water when you want to keep the water if you're doing multiple batches. Also good for getting things out of frying oil. Like if you want to get, you want to keep the frying oil, you don't want to waste any. Tongs can be used for that, but this is useful. It's good for that kind of thing. That's a ladle. Also good for serving. It's better for serving soups and stews and things like that. And then we covered tongs earlier. This is just another pair. This is a metal pair, not a silicone pair. Better for super, super high heat if you're trying to get things out of ovens and things like that. But that's your utensils. That's the basic sense of the utensils, and then we're going to cover some other tools, which we're going to get to in a moment. And next we'll be covering pots and pans. These big things. This is what you call a Dutch oven. This has gotten a lot of use, and you can tell, but it is amazing. These things are like the most versatile pot that you can have in a kitchen. You can do everything in them. You can saute in them. You can do sauces in them. You can boil water in them. You can do everything in them. If you can only have one whole thing in this kitchen that, like, to cook in outside of anything else I'm going to show you, get one of these. They're like the most versatile thing. You can do pretty much everything in them, but there are some luxuries that I like to afford, and I'm going to cover here. A stainless steel pan. This is, it's good for your frying and all that sort of stuff, sauteing, cooking things. If you want a quick sauce, instead of doing it in a saucepan, do it in a pan because you've got a larger surface area. But these things, I like stainless steel because it's versatile. As you'll find, I like things that you can do basically anything, and that's what this is good for. This is very good at doing everything you want from a pan. You can get non-stick. Non-stick's perfectly fine, but you won't really get, if you're trying to build like a fond, which is like the sort of darker bits at the bottom when you're making like a sauce, or you got like steaks and stuff like that. You won't get much of that because it's non-stick. Nothing really sticks to it. And I don't have cast iron because I hate it, because it requires so much maintenance. It's just frustrating. These, easy to clean, easy to maintain. And these things will never break. You can have a pan like this that's stainless steel, that's semi-decent for 10, 15, however long you're willing to make it last. And that's why I like them. A couple of basic saucepans with their lids respectively. Lids are always helpful, but sometimes if you just have one lid, you can kind of just mishmash, like a big one. You can just mishmash on the rest of them. It'll kind of do the trick. But if you have their respective lids, most pot sets will come with their own sets of lids. Or they're awesome. And like I said, stainless steel again for the same reasons. They're incredibly durable. They're incredibly versatile. They're exactly what you want out of any saucepan. I've got 3 different sizes. It's always good to have 3 different sizes, a small, and then I've got the medium and the large pots over here for doing bigger stuff. But if you need a lot of sauce or a lot of stuff like that, you use the Dutch oven that I showed you before. You also need these baking trays. Put stuff in ovens and things like that. There are big, wide, deep ones you can do for making lasagnas and casseroles and big, deep tray pies, which I do have as well. And you don't even need to buy dedicated ones. You can buy these. These are like bendable, cheap tin foil things. You get a pack of 5 of them at Bunnings and Coles for like a couple of bucks, and they're single use. You can make your lasagna in them. You can put tin foil over it and keep it in the fridge until it's done. But if you want a dedicated deep dish pan, obviously you can get one. We do, but I use these because I actually, for some odd reason, really like them. But in terms of stuff to use to actually cook things, and that's what you need. That's what you need. That and the utensils, and I'm going to show you a couple other little things that help, little gizmos and gadgets, and I'll get to them right now. All right, to cover the last of the sort of utensils and stuff like that, you've got just me pulling stuff out of the drawer that I use all the time. Some of these things I use less frequently than others, but the first of these things is microplane. These are very good for grating garlic. They're very good for grating cheeses very fine. Things of that description. If you want something super finely grated, use one of these. They're good for that. Usually good for just if you're trying to get stuff to plate, parmesan and things like that. Just over the top of your dish when you're done. That's what these are primarily used for, and that's what they're good for. Vegetable peeler, or you can use them for fruit as well. But it's a vegetable peeler. This is a slightly nicer one. It's not super high quality by any standard. It's better than these ones. These ones are fine. You can use them, but they're not. It's been a design that's been around since the dawn of time, honestly. Vegetable peelers. Peel carrots, peel apples, anything of those description, and that's what they're good for. Can openers. Can opener is good for opening cans. What do you know? Yeah, can openers. These things, you've probably seen them kicking around in your mum's drawer. They're fine. That one's, like I said, you can get like the super ultra cheapy ones that are literally just the metal handle and this mechanism. They aren't that great. These are a bit better. I've used these plenty of times before, and they're way easier than using the cheaper ones. I like to sort of encourage people to use budget options if they work, but sometimes it is worth spending a couple of extra dollars and getting something that you know will work and not only last, because it will save you money and time in the long run. This is a carving fork. Very good for cutting up roasts. Whether it's big roast beef or a roast lamb or roast pork, anything roast. You've got it on your thing. You stick it in there. You use your knife, and it sort of holds it in place, so you don't have to burn your hand off. I've said it before. Don't burn yourself. It's not fun. This is a basting brush. Basting is put your juices back and baste it on top of a roast or anything else that you're doing. Also good for lining your trays in like a butter or an oil if you're baking, or even if just putting anything else in the oven. It's got a couple of different uses. This is good. Basting brush. A good pair of scissors is always good to have when you're kicking around in the kitchen, just to open in bags and things like that, anything, or even if you're trying to cut up. You can cut a chicken up with this thing, like a fully cooked or even a raw chicken. You can cut pretty much the whole thing up with a pair of scissors. Very useful, very versatile, and pair of kitchen scissors. A grater is also amazing to have. You can get the ones that have got 4 sides, but really mainly people only use this side because it's like the most universal side. Good for grating cheese up and carrots and stuff like that. You can use this sort of finer side here like a microplane if you don't want to have one. Because it does virtually the same thing. You grate garlic on it, you grate your parmesan on it. It's just more difficult when you're trying to do it over a plate or over a pot. You kind of have to do it in its own pile and then transfer it. But honestly, if you don't want to buy a microplane, you can get one of these and that'll work fine. This is cutting big slices of cheese or big slices of anything. That's also all very handy, all very useful. And a pizza cutter. If you eat a lot of pizza, if you don't eat much pizza or you just order pizza out, which is totally fine. But I'm going to show you how to make it at some point, and this is very useful to have because it's seriously like breathing. It's just, you cut it up and it's super simple, super easy. And the last piece of utensils that these are also super important, but you save the best to last, chef's knives and a bread knife and a paring knife. They're the main 3 you sort of need. This one is less important, so you can get away with doing everything with just kind of these 2. But in terms of preparing food, if you see me using a knife, it's mainly these 2. You might see me use this one from time to time, or even like the little tiny paring knife. It's in the dishwasher, I can't show you. But that's it. That's everything you'll need. As you see, it's quite a bit of stuff on the surface when you look at it. But if you chip away and just buy a little thing here, a little thing there, it sort of adds up and you'll have everything you'll need in your kitchen. And one last thing you'll probably need is good Tupperware. Just a couple of dishwasher safe plastic containers that are reusable. You buy sort of a couple of 3 or 4 of each different size that you want, and that'll sort of sustain you for what you want. But that's it. That's the equipment that you'll sort of need. And a lot of this stuff you can sort of, the little knick-knacky stuff, you can sort of get away with just figuring it out in another way. But it's good to have it all. It is. So just pick up a thing. If you're in the shops and you see it, just, every week, just pick up a new tool. But focus on your knives first. You do not need, these are like super nice knives. You don't need anything nearly as nice as this. You can get a $10 Woolies knife or an Aldi knife or a Kmart knife. Pretty sure Kmart do a whole knife set for like $40 or $50, and you get that and you'll be set. You just keep them sharp, and they're not the most amazing knives, but they will do the trick and you can make good food with them. And I'll prove it with all of this as we go along. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.